Welcome out, Army fans. This is analyst and writer Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com, along with another very special guest today. We've had a really good week here at GBK. We've got offensive coordinator Brent Davis. How you doing today, Coach Davis?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, want to kind of jump right into it. I think one of the things a lot of the fan base is really excited about this year is the level of athleticism that you have on offense at the skill positions. I mean, I know Coach Monken always jokes about the athleticism at Army compared to other places, but when you look at Tyrell Robinson, Tyler, who's got a lot of experience and is really quick at the quarterback position, Isaiah Alston, who can win just about any one-on-one battle that we've seen him in at wide receiver, and then the fullback stable led by Jacoby Buchanan, who, you've had some great fullbacks in your 8 years or 9 years at West Point, but Jacoby's right up there with the best of them. And then you've got Tyson Riley coming on right behind them. Can you talk a little bit to the skill of some of these skill players and what you're excited about going into this year in terms of what these guys can allow you to do as an offensive coordinator in terms of play calling and just some, my dad coached for 40 years and he always used to, he loved the quote, "It's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes." So, you've got that opportunity this year, maybe a little more than in the past. So could you just talk a little bit about that and what you're excited about going into the 2022 season with that group of skill players?
Well, I think every year is different. I mean, and you've got to come together as an offense, and we want to be efficient first, and physical, which doesn't mean that you can't be explosive at the same time, but in whatever we do, we've got to be efficient with what we do. That's how we win here. That's how we've won.
Yeah.
First and foremost, and that's why we do what we do. But it's great to have some guys back that have had the ball in their hands, and some of them for multiple years. And we were really pleased with the way Isaiah came on last year. And the thing that I want to compliment him the most on is the improvement that he made blocking downfield and even in some close situations on the edge where we asked him to do some things. And, because had he not done that, it probably would have limited his development as an overall receiver. And he's been a guy that's had ball skills, for a long time, and since he first got here. And so a guy we know could make plays with the ball, but he really developed last year as a solid blocker and took pride in it. And I think his teammates recognize that, and we're impressed by that as well. And so there's a run where Tyrell Robinson scored from 80 yards out, and Isaiah was lined up on the other side of the field, and he actually ran 112 yards to shield the last guy from running Tyrell down. So, we're about more than just what you do when you have the ball in your hands. And he certainly did a great job buying into that last year. And then when he was called on to make catches, he made some plays for us. I think he can get a lot more polished as a route runner. I think he would tell you the same thing, and he can do a better job creating separation on defenders and getting in and out of breaks and being more fluid and understanding coverage a little bit better. But when the ball's in the air, he did a great job of going to get it. And he's certainly a guy that we've got to give opportunities to in the right situations. And, I think we were second in the country in yards per reception. And obviously he's a huge part of that. And he caught some balls in big situations. So really excited to have him back. His development physically continues to happen. They do a great job in the weight room. And he's continued to develop and just getting stronger. So I think he'll be better when teams want to come up and get in his face and press him, where he can separate from them. And then he's going to win a lot of the balls in the air when it's a tie. And so that's something we're real excited about, just starting off with him. As far as Tyrell, Tyrell is just so versatile. I feel like he's an excellent receiver as well. And when we call on him to do that, he's done a great job of getting separation, beating safeties inside, and then with the ball, the first guy rarely, if ever, tackles him. And so that allows us the ability to turn a guy loose and maybe crack or block a guy who has an easier angle on him and let him square a guy up and get in space. And so that's the one thing with him is at times early in his career, he was just a guy who was good with the ball. And he's always been a great teammate and humble, but he didn't understand necessarily where everybody fit around him. And so to compliment him just in his development has been to see him gain an understanding in his football IQ to continue to increase. It's going to help him fit some runs better, and also help him when he's called on to play without the ball. So, if I compliment him on that, I think he's always been, like I said, a selfless, great teammate and all that. It's never about how many times he had the ball to him, but he's become a lot smarter football player as it's gone. He's put work into that. I think it's been important to him, and that's going to really help his development. Like I said, his biggest attributes are his acceleration and then the ability to make the first guy miss, and the fact that he's so versatile as a runner and receiver, particularly in space running the ball. And he's not going to run it a lot inside, although there's a couple counter plays that he runs well, but on the edge, he's really done some good things. You mentioned TT, Tyre. Big thing with him is he's always been a good runner of the football, but he's become a more complete quarterback, where we're going to take the reins off of him as far as, we don't want to call that play. There's certain things he does a little bit better than others, but there's nothing that we have in our offense that he can't execute now. And did in key situations, throwing a touchdown pass in the bowl game. Was huge. Threw had a long completion on a boot in the Air Force game. So he's done those in key situations, and I think he's gained a lot of confidence in himself throwing the football. And really, it's never been a could he throw it. It's more about throwing it on time. And making sure we stay in rhythm and throwing it to open spots. So I think he's gotten a lot better with that. So excited about that. But his ability to execute the option has continued to get better and better. And so fully confident in what he brings to the table as far as that goes. And then, you mentioned the B-backs. And also I'd say this, there's a competition at quarterback, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question.
Yeah.
I've heard it both ways, that it's kind of Tyre's job to lose, and then I've also heard that it's still an open competition, basically.
It is an open competition, and I think Coach Monk will tell you that as well. And Tyre's aware of that, and both those guys, I'm talking about Tyre and Cade being at the top, followed by Jamel, who also had a good spring, but kind of Tyre and Cade maybe being a little ahead going into the fall. Based on what they did in the spring, but Cade did an outstanding job executing, and really, he had back surgery early in his career, but looked like he had some of his suddenness back, that we saw in film from high school, and he's always thrown the football extremely well. So, I'm excited about those two guys. Christian Anderson was outstanding, last year for us. And the year before when he was healthy, and that was the thing, is he was never completely healthy. But both those guys are going to play. So they're going to battle it out, see who takes the first snap, and both those guys are going to play, and inevitably, we end up. And I think they bring different things to the table, but also it helps keep them rested and doesn't put all and helps us to make it through the season and keeps them a little more healthy, where one guy's not shouldering the load. So I think you'll probably see both of them as well, and throughout the season. And that's not to say that that's the only two guys that are going to play, because there's going to be some other guys that are in the mix. Jamel Jones for sure, Bryson Daly, who's a young guy coming on. Those two guys kind of come to mind. Alon Mitchell, who hasn't played yet, but is a young guy as well. So those guys are all going to be in the mix. Be back. If people think back to last year, Tyson was the first was a starter in the first game. I mean, he started the Georgia State game, scored on the first series, and really looked outstanding and had a great camp last year. And then was hurt from that first series on, and really never got his complete burst back until I think we saw glimpses of it in the Missouri game. And so if you go back and you see some of that, and so that was kind of the Tyson Riley that we were used to seeing. And he's extremely versatile, and he was a quarterback that ended up growing into a B-back. He's played tight end. He can play slot. So he's going to be on the field. He's a guy that absolutely we need to get the ball to and have involved at the point of attack. He's just he's a 250-pound guy that can really run, and one of our most sudden guys. Maybe not long range speed, although he's got good long range speed, but just sudden, getting going and getting to full speed also. And then Jacoby's is just been so solid and consistent, and to really compliment him, 2 years ago he was a guy that we really trusted in short yard situations, and we didn't like him playing without the ball as much, and he has really become a more complete player where we want to put him in the game more and continue. It's not just a short yards back. He's a B back, and he's fully functional with everything that we do, and really became a dominating blocker at times. And he's out there on the perimeter on the bootleg that Christian Anderson scored.
Yeah, I've seen that film a ton of times, and he throws a great block on that play.
Yeah, and then later on in the game, he ran through the safety to score. So love him. I mean, glad he's back, and I really love those two guys. We've never been able to play just two guys in that position, and so we got to find the third guy and the fourth guy, and depending on special teams, we usually bring four with us on a trip somewhere, and so there's a 2 to 3 guys behind those two that are going to kind of battle it out, see who's going to be the next guy. So, but yeah, the other guy, and he's not necessarily, I guess you'd call him a skill guy. He's a big skill guy, but Josh Lingenfelter, excited to have him back, and he can really catch the football. He showed us that in the spring, and something that's we're going to have the possibility to get the tight end more involved in the passing game a little bit. And
that's awesome. I've always felt like this offense, and I mean, it obviously way better than I do, but I've always felt like when the tight end can get involved in the passing game, that's just a really effective weapon for this offense. Right.
Those guys are always open, and but the quarterback's always underthrow them for some reason. So they don't trust their speed, man. As a former tight end, I can tell you.
They underestimate the speed. I know. I was going to say, you're a former tight end, so I know you got a soft spot in your heart for that. So.
Absolutely do. We use many of them as we can, but yeah, you're right. I'm really excited to have those guys back, and those aren't the only guys. I mean. A guy like Cole Catterbone was extremely versatile for us. He's going to be extremely versatile for us. Played receiver, did a great job last year, but he's going to play slot back and receiver this year. We're going to get him on the field more. And
how's that transition working out for him?
I thought he had a really good spring, excellent spring. Being able to play the T position, which the guy would move around a lot and motion a lot, but also being able to line up out wide gives us some more flexibility and more depth. So thought that he really picked that up well, was a good addition to that position group, and brought maybe a little bit different dynamic in there with those guys. He's a bigger guy, 200 pounds, and we lost AJ Howard, who was a bigger guy at that position, and so he gives us the ability to do some things in there. And then I thought John Marshall had an excellent spring too, and showed us some things with the football, and I think he's another guy that's a versatile guy that's also a good receiver for us, so he can play the A and the T position. So that's kind of a rundown of some of those guys, I guess, that you mentioned. But.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a great rundown. Thank you very much. A lot of good detail there. You hit on something that I kind of want to dig into a little more. You've coached this offense for a really long time at Army and at other places prior to Army, obviously. the fact that going into a season statistically, even if in the last couple of years you've had kind of the benefit, I guess, of having a couple quarterbacks with different skill sets who you can play pretty regularly and alternate to get rest and everything. But statistics have shown, other than maybe Ahmad Bradshaw, we haven't ever been able to just rely on one quarterback in this offense. So how unique is that challenge in terms of coordinating the option offense, maybe versus, you go to a school like, your standard 1A school where they're, SEC, Big Ten, whatever, where they're just, running a pro offense or an RPO offense, and the average starting quarterback's taking 80 to 90% of the snaps.
Yeah, I mean, we did a little bit with Kelvin Hopkins in 2018. He played most of the snaps that season. Maybe with the exception of one game, I believe he was injured, but in 18. But yeah, other than that, it's been a lot of, a little bit by committee at times. Honestly, I see it as a positive, not as a burden in calling plays. What it gives you the ability to do is do something that other people think might be uncharacteristic for that guy that's in the game now.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to decide when you want to bring that out. I don't feel hamstrung at all by, they know what set of plays we're going to run.
Right.
Now, when we moved Tyler to quarterback during the middle of the season after he had been hurt out with staph infection and playing slot back, and then he had to start games in 2020 in the COVID year, that's a different situation because we didn't feel like we were fully functional running option plays,
right,
without putting the ball on the ground. But that's not him anymore. And so that's a different situation than we're in now. Or having a Cade Ballard, who was the scout team quarterback two weeks before, start out
right.
in a team that won 10 games. So, that's a different situation. And coach, that's a, testament to Coach Worley getting those guys developed and being fully functional. And so, yeah, I see it as a plus because when we first got here, we didn't have a depth or the functionality that we needed to win games.
Right.
And that's not the situation that we're in now. That's not to say that we don't want to continue to, develop and improve, but we're in a much better situation.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. So, moving on, what Army fans know, I think this is kind of cool. It's kind of unique to Army and maybe the other academies, but especially Army. I think we talk more about the offensive line at Army than probably most other teams do. And, I know you've always had a hand in coaching the O-line, the mob, as they're affectionately known. And as the mob goes, typically, so goes the Army offense. So could you talk a little bit about, who you have coming back? You got some great players coming back. Obviously, your captain, Connor Bishop, is leading that group. But then talk about maybe some of the young or less experienced guys that we'll probably see in the rotation this year as well.
Yeah, so we told Connor the last time we had a center that was the captain, we won 11 games.
Yep.
So he's got big shoes to fill with
Bryce
Holland. But Connor, as good a football player as he is, his ability to lead that group and help lead our offense equally as valuable, and just from a football knowledge standpoint, outstanding, helping guys around him. And so he's a phenomenal leader. And along with Connor Finucane, who's played a lot of football, right next to him, and has really started games as a freshman. And has really developed into a physical guy. He's over 300 pounds. And
I was going to say, I thought I saw on the roster on the website where he cleared 300. So
he has. So we don't want him too much over there. So he might have been up around 305, but excited about his development. And, Connor's got another guy who's got really outstanding football IQ and can help guys around him, and really has taken it upon himself to help develop other guys at his position and guys around him. And that's he's a true, going into being his true junior year, didn't have a prep year. And he was 17 when he got here. I think he might still be 19 years old. So, I mean, he's
Wow.
still a pup. He's still a pup, but he's very mature in a lot of ways. And so those are guys that have started games for us, along with Booby Law, who's the left tackle. He was kind of in the same boat as Connor Finucane, although Booby went to the prep school first.
Mm-hmm.
He started games as a freshman and was ready early in his career, but his development just from a physicality standpoint has been significant. I think he's just scratching the surface of what he's capable of. He's going to have 3 more years. So really excited about him. Longer guy, he's 6'4.5", I would say, and he's probably up in close to 290.
Wow.
Really good in space, agile. Just excited by him, but just the way he's matured and his approach to working. So those 3 are the guys that have played the most that are coming back. But left guard, we've got kind of a great competition. Coach Vitti and I feel like this is the best situation we've been in terms of the amount of guys that have a chance to play for us, that and compete for spots. We've got more competition. There's a 3-way battle at left guard right now. Jackson Flipwitz, who we moved from center, and Sam Barzak, who's played some for us last year, and then Aiden Gaines, who did not play much, maybe in kind of mop-up time last year, but really had a good spring. And then the tackle situation on the other side, we really feel good about. We've got Simon Dellinger, who has continued to develop. He was a tight end and just continued to gain weight. He's 290 pounds now. And Shane Buckingham, who was a high school quarterback,
right,
turned tight end, turned 290-pound, offensive lineman. And so I think when you can do that, you get more athleticism out there. And so some of our longer guys and length has come from, they've been guys that played other positions and then transition. And so excited about those 2. They're kind of battling out, and both of them, had good springs. So, that group has been working extremely hard. Just got to come together during camp and really push each other to kind of sharpen each other to see who's going to be take the first 5 snaps. But, as Mike and I said the other day, we'd like to be able to make it like a hockey line and take 5 out and put 5 more in, and that's something that's been a goal of ours since we've been here, and we're getting closer. I'm not saying we're there, but getting closer. And so that we feel a lot better about our depth. But we've got to, so we lost some guys that played a lot of games, but some of the parts, we feel like we got a chance to be really solid. So
that's awesome. I know, depth on the offensive line is a huge concern, especially with the number of plays you guys run on offense. So that's really good to hear. I think people are going to be really excited about that. Speaking of the offensive line, and you mentioned Coach Vitti a little bit, obviously a great coach, did a phenomenal job with the B-backs for a number of years. How is Mike transitioning to coaching the offensive line?
It's awesome. It's a great fit for his mentality. And just the mindset that he brings to that position it's a perfect fit for him. I think it's a good way for him to become more involved in scheme. Because the offensive line, there's a little bit more going on than there is at the B-back position, and kind of continue to develop that way as a coach. He's only coached for 6 years, and
right.
But just his knowledge goes way beyond, a guy who's been in football 6 years. And then from a leadership aspect, what he brings to the table. And I told him the other day, I told the offensive line, I said, would Coach Vitti coaching you? If we're not tough, then I don't know what,
right.
I mean, I don't know, what the deal is. So, but no, he's done a great job, and we're good friends to be able to work together and split the group up. And he take half, and me take half, and him run the meeting, and me go into skill position meeting if need be. Having that flexibility is great. So I think it's gonna be a great move, and just really excited about it, and what he'll bring to that position group.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have a couple other new coaches too on the offensive side of the ball. I believe Aaron Smith, wide receiver coach, came down from UConn. Talk a little bit about him and what he's adding to the program so far.
Yeah, what's crazy is so Aaron's dad was the garrison commander at West Point at one time, and
Oh
so
yeah.
basically grew up
Wow.
on West Point, or for the length of time his dad was here. I can't have the exact number of years, but kind of moved around with him. He's a phenomenal teacher and just awesome addition. You know, having him and really has some good ideas for us on some things, and I think he's going to do a phenomenal job, and he's a really knowledgeable guy. And like I said, just listening to him teach and coach out at practice, you know, he's kind of just stepped right in, and he's going to do a great job for us.
Cool. And then I think I should remember this better, but Major Blake Powers coaching the slotbacks now, or
Yep, he's a civilian now.
okay, yeah.
As of about 4 days. So
Oh, nice.
and you know, Blake was a high school and college quarterback. He's a college quarterback. He started at Indiana.
Yep.
And played in the Arena League, coached in high school actually for a year, and then went into the Army and did the ROTC route basically. And you know, and then so we lured him out of the Army, and what he brings to the table is similar to what we saw in Mike when Mike came onto the field and started coaching, is just the leadership aspect of it. Character, type of person that he is, and just that's the most important things on the staff. I mean, and to Coach Monk. And so I feel like, you know, whatever football knowledge he doesn't have yet, we can teach him. So he's been plugged right in and done a great job. And then he's got Mike that can also help him with the B-backs as well, it's fresh on his mind. So it's been a great transition. He was our admissions director for football, basically, and was in charge of helping our guys go through the admissions process, which is very, very lengthy, and was awesome at that job. And so we're like, this is a guy we want to,
Yeah, that's a huge asset to the program when it comes to working with recruits, I guess. And
yeah. So well, he's been recruiting for the last 5 years. It's not like he just started.
Right.
So I don't think that was a concern for Coach Monken at all as well. So, great, awesome opportunity for him to be able to get into coaching that way. Sometimes it's a little harder to get in, but with his leadership background, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think that's really cool for, the cadet athletes who make up the Army football team, that they have some officer and ex-officer mentorship and leadership. And it just goes to show, especially a lot of the players you guys have produced at West Point since you've been there have gone on to have really good careers as officers and really seem to love what they do in the Army. And, that's always important to the fan base and the old grads and everything else. So I think that's a really cool asset for you guys to have.
I think one of the things we're probably most proud of, as far as the offensive linemen, I think every offensive lineman that's gone to Ranger School, not everyone's gone, but not everyone has gone, but everyone that has gone has made it through. So
oh man,
that's a pretty good streak.
That's not easy for sure.
Mike Johnson just finished last week, and I think JB Hunter's there right now, so hopefully we'll keep that streak going.
Yeah, so. But I bet those guys are a lot leaner at the end of Ranger School when they were getting ready to play Navy and Air Force.
Well, it's funny, they lose weight so fast. I mean,
yeah,
I saw Noah Knapp walking around here the other day. He's like 235. Yeah, he was 285 when he played, so he's lost 50 pounds.
Right.
They lose it fast, But offensive linemen, you don't stay the same weight when you finish playing. You either go way up or way down.
Yeah, exactly. I saw a picture of Villanueva a couple of weeks ago, and he's like back to his wide receiver weight. You almost can't recognize the guy. It's crazy.
He said he was like 245 or something when he came and spoke to the team. I think he said 245. That's incredible.
Wow, that's amazing. So, kind of second to last question here for you. There's been some NCAA rule changes this year. Nothing you guys have dealt with rule changes before, specifically when it comes to blocking below the waist, that we can't block below the waist outside the tackle box anymore. Did you guys start coaching on that in the spring? How is that transition coming along? I think, from my perspective, maybe I'm wrong, I see that primarily affecting maybe the slot backs on the perimeter and the tight ends probably more than anybody else.
Well, yeah, first of all, I want to say this, like, it's a ridiculous rule change.
I agree.
And it's kind of an attack on our offense because they did it under the guise of player safety. Yet it's still legal for me as a defensive player to hold a guy up and then my other defensive player to come down and hit him directly in the knee. And
right.
So there's a lot more gruesome injuries and way more injuries that happen due to low tackling than low blocking. So let's not sit here and pretend and pat ourselves on the back saying that it's about player safety, because it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's my opinion, and I mean, I'd be curious to get your opinion on this too. It's not for player safety. It is a direct attack on the teams that run our offense. And it's also, to me, which I don't love, and it's one of the reasons I'm such a big Army fan, in addition to the fact that I went to school there, the quote unquote softening of the football game to where it's basketball on turf.
Yeah.
It's going to make the game less enjoyable and less fun, in my opinion. But
it limits the variety of offenses, but a little bit. But having said all that, we're not going to sit here and complain about it,
right?
And make it a big deal to our players. But that's it. That's what it is.
Yep.
So we worked on it in the spring. We went back and looked at how many times we actually cut on the perimeter and where it would affect us. We watched every cut block that we threw last season, and the effect is minimal when you look at that. I think the threat, but the threat of getting cut, the threat of low blocking slows defenders down. So now you're going to have a lot more high speed head-to-head collisions, and they're going to see the concussion rate go up. That's what's going to happen. But
I hadn't even thought of that, but that's a really good point.
There's a lot of things that we worked on formationally to keep us out of situations where we had to cut, adjusting schemes a little bit, and also adjusting personnel. Well, the other thing to that is you can't cut blockers out there. So if we have a bigger blocker that's doing the arc blocking on the perimeter, and you have a smaller DB, we're going to win that matchup if your guy can't go low and make a good point. Our guy. And so there's a lot of things like that, along with, if defenses feel like, we can just run through that guy's headgear because he can't go low on me, but we could also avoid you and go by you and catch a pass. So it's not like, oh gosh, they banned cut blocking, we can't run our offense. They've made so many changes in the cut rules over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
A gradual, we'll keep them from doing this, we'll keep them from doing that, we'll keep, and so it's just one more thing, and it's just it's an opportunity for us to improve, adapt, and move on. And what we'll do is we'll end up finding things that we like better that we should have been doing years ago had we already had the rule change. So not concerned about it.
Yep, that's totally the Army football West Point mindset, right? Just treat it as an opportunity and figure out a way to do some different things. So that's awesome. Last question for you, Brent. Kind of a fun one. So we know that, you and Coach Monken are a big believer in analytics and statistics. You use those a lot to help guide your play calling and everything else. So I think what a lot of the fans out there who see in the booth every week on TV want to know is, what is your average number of Diet Cokes per ball game that you go through?
That's probably a nervous tick, to be honest with you. Actually, I prefer Diet Dr. Pepper.
Okay. Good stuff.
But that happens to be what they have in the box. So I'm not a snob on it.
You're just taking whatever's in there.
So I have one per quarter.
Okay. I was wondering, to follow up, if it's a closer game, does that increase?
Well, what you probably don't see is I have 4 water bottles up there too. So I drink 1
Right.
Coke per quarter and 1 water bottle. So you got to balance off the caffeine with some hydration. So
Good. Impressive bladder strength as well. So
no, when we're on defense, I'll go to the bathroom sometimes.
good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much, Coach Davis. I appreciate your time today. We're really looking forward to camp and the upcoming season. And Army fans, again, this has been Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com, along with Army offensive coordinator Brent Davis. Go Army and beat Navy.